Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful darling. I am so excited to be here. I have my notebook, and we are going to talk about anxious attachment style, how I healed my anxious attachment style, and how you can do the same thing. So, if you have questions, let me know, comments, and we'll just get go through it and have a good girl chat. So, I used to be someone who was really anxious in relationships. I was constantly checking my phone, constantly wondering how the person felt about me. And this was just so uncomfortable. I did not like it. I would not recommend. And I really had to one day figure out how to overcome this. And I'm going to share with you what I did. So, my name is Chanel. I am a feminine empowerment coach, and I love talking about relationships. I love talking about feminine energy. And I just love to see women glow and people glow and step into who they know they've been meant to be. And I love sharing my journey and how I did the same. So that's what we're going to discuss on today. There are a few common attachment styles. I'd say there are about four that we know of. There's anxious, there's avoidant, there's a combination of both, and then there's secure. So I used to be extremely anxious. I am the oldest daughter. I was always trying to look out for the family growing up and consider everyone else's emotions and trying to navigate situations and think ahead to make sure that we were all good and things were good and no one will have conflict. Like I was constantly thinking of those scenarios, and so it put me in a very anxious state as a child. And I grew up like that with that mindset that I had to be the hero in a sense and be the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, and the perfect Christian, and just really try to control everything. So as I got older and I became an adult, what do you think I did? I carried this into my adulthood and did the same thing, trying to be in control of my emotions, of others' emotions, of how they perceive me, of wanting to not tell people no because, well, I want to be liked and I want to be seen as nice, and just really trying to prioritize the perception of other people. And I did the same thing when it came to men. I want to seem interested, but I don't want to seem too interested. I know you've had this experience. Or, how do I drop little hints? How do I sit back and let him pursue me just so in my head? And it really blocked me in my love life. It really made it hard for me to form secure attachments. And I found that I kept putting myself in situations where I was with someone who was avoidant and they were not reciprocating what I was doing, the energy that I was giving. Thinking about it, I probably sent mixed signals. So then they did the same thing. And I just kept finding like I wasn't getting anywhere. So I would find myself in situationships. I think he likes me, but he doesn't. We're hanging out, but is it a date? I mean, some he pays, but he's not really saying that. Like just these icky situations that were uncomfortable. And I got to the point where I wanted to learn more about myself and really figure out why I was repeating this pattern and why I was feeling so anxious in my relationships. And so that is exactly what I did. I learned what an anxious attachment style is on a deeper level because I have a knowledge of it. I'm a therapist by trade, that's my background. But being able to apply that to my life and how it's showing up in my life is what I had to do. So that's what I did. And I really understood that my fear of being rejected in some way by doing the wrong thing was a direct result of an anxious attachment style. And so, an anxious attachment style is when you crave connection, you crave closeness, but you're afraid of rejection. So, how can it show up in your relationships? Well, for me, the way that it showed up was I was overgiving, which is funny because I didn't mind giving, but I didn't want to express how I felt. So I was definitely conflicted, but I was overgiving. I was constantly thinking, how can I show this person dot dot dot. And I didn't always consciously think, how can I prove who I am? But I was thinking, how can I show this him love? How can I let him know that he could just be himself? And just constantly thinking those sort of thoughts, that was a sign that I was in an anxious attachment style. So having racing thoughts, constantly anxious and worried about what you should be doing and what you're doing wrong, that's a sign of an anxious attachment style. Trying to be in control and plan everything and come up with all the ideas and even like monitoring your actions. I'm not going to respond to this text. I'm going to take my time, or um you know what, it's okay if I initiate, maybe that's just our pattern. Like those action oriented things, that's also a sign of being an anxious attachment. And then your inability to rest, that is also a sign. If you have a hard time relaxing and just doing nothing for a little bit, you feel like you always have to move and, just be on do mode, that is also a sign of an anxious attachment style. And I have been there, I have had to overcome this, and it is so worth it because what's on the other side is security. It's being in a healthy feminine energy and attracting a healthy masculine man. So if you find that you're having racing, anxious thoughts, you're worried, you're constantly thinking about how you're being perceived, if you find that it's hard to rest, that you feel like you have to be doing something to be productive. And if you are constantly monitoring your own actions and if you're doing the right thing or if you should tweak it, those are signs that you might have an anxious attachment style. And it's okay. I've been there. I think all of us have been there in some ways, but it is definitely worth it to work through it. And so I'm going to pause just to make sure to see if I have any questions before I go on. So I'm looking over. Okay. Getting some highs. Hello. Hi. Okay. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Okay. So, one question I want to answer is, why do people that feel anxious tend to attract people that are avoidant? So, I'm going to answer that question. So, an avoidant attachment style is someone who fears emotional connection, and they create physical distance. Okay, so when you think about that definition, and then think about what I said with the anxious attachment, someone who craves closeness and is afraid of rejection. Well, if the anxious is constantly moving forward, right, trying to draw close to this person, the avoidant is pulling away, it's because their energies are trying to balance out. If you're coming and I come hard like you are, we're going to collide, right? But if I let you come and I sit back and I receive, then our roles are balanced. Let me know if that makes sense. So essentially, I can't be all of the think about the yin and yang. I can't be all of the white and take up the space of the black. If you're coming with that white part of the yin and yang, then I have to come with the black to balance that out. So it's the same thing in relationships. If you're the one that's giving heavily, then the person has to sit back to allow you to give so they can receive. So people who are afraid of attachment but need the reassurance that they're worth being attached to, they tend to want anxious attachment, anxious attachment style relationships. And people who feel like they have to prove, they're going to be attracted to someone who allows them to prove who they are and crave that deep connection. So this is why those attachment styles tend to be drawn to each other, and it just creates this unhealthy cycle. And that is what I noticed in my own love life. So let me make sure I'm not missing any points. Okay. So it is possible to heal your attachment style and to step into a secure attachment style. And this is what I craved, and this is what I learned to do. So, the secure attachment style is one that allows you to trust your partner, to be reassured of how they feel about you, to know that you are worth their affection, their love, their fill in the blanks, and to be comfortable in the relationship. So, the best way to do that and how I did it is I really took the time to learn about myself. I really took the time to listen to my body, to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, and what was acceptable to me, what wasn't. And I really just started to have fun and to play and to experience pleasure, really just loving on Chanel. And this helped me attract a partner who also likes to love on me because I modeled what I wanted for myself and I became okay with setting boundaries and saying no and walking away from things that didn't serve me. It's almost like once you drop to the bottom, right? We all have that situation where it's like there's nowhere to go but up from here, and the ego is really like taken out essentially, and you're humble, you're open, you're wanting to grow, you're like desperate for change. That was the state that I found myself in. So there was someone who I was friends with, and we kind of had this little gray area thing going on where I thought he liked me but I wasn't sure. And then there was also the distance, but I was so convinced that something was going to come of this relationship that I just went hard in so many different ways. And then I found out that he was with someone else and they were going to get married. And it was like, whoa, let's reevaluate, Chanel, why you're going after this person. And is this even like, why did you stay in this situation for so long? And so that really humbled me. Like, it let me know I didn't know everything, I could not control everything, and let me learn. And so that was that low point for me where it was like, girl, it's time to do something different. It's time to grow. And so I got to the point where I was like, I don't care about how I look anymore. I don't care. I don't care if the person knows I'm feeling them, if they don't think I'm feeling them. I don't care if they think I'm doing too much or doing too little. Like, I didn't care anymore. I only was interested in what I could gain from these situations and how I could grow as a person in my relationships. And that became my priority. And let me tell you, I was able to bounce back a lot faster if something did not work out the way that I thought. And I was okay with walking away from situations that were not serving me because I no longer felt like I had to prove that I was worth that relationship. And the game changed for your girl. The game changed for me. And the game can change for you. So let me pause because I get excited. I get excited, but I want to make sure that I answer questions and that I get your feedback. So let me pause and look at the chat. Okay. So, hello. Hi, beautiful. All right. So, questions. How do you how do you even know that you have an anxious attachment style? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's a good question. So, how do you know that you have an anxious attachment style? Well, let's get into how you heal it because this is also going to help you understand how you know. One of the main ways that you heal your anxious attachment style is to build your self awareness, which is how you know that you have one. You want to start to journal. You want to take note of your thoughts and what you're thinking, what your thought pattern is. You want to take note of your actions and what you're doing because this is how you know whether or not you are in an anxious attachment style. If you find yourself constantly thinking about how to make the relationship better, how to show up for the other person, and you're not so much even able to reflect on how they're showing up for you and how good you just feel being in the relationship, that is how you can know that you have an anxious attachment style. So take inventory of your thoughts and your actions. And if you find that you're giving more than he is, and you're calling him more than he's calling you, and you're playing these little games of, I'm going to take my time to respond, then you might be, it sounds like you're feeling anxious. You might be feeling anxious and this is not the secure, healthy relationship that you're really craving. So, building your self awareness is a major way to overcome the anxious attachment style. Let me look at the next one I put. Okay, this is a fun one that I do for myself and I do for my clients. Think of that worst case scenario. So, the anxiety that we experience is because we're thinking of the worst. But what happens is we try to fight against that and not allow our mind to really go there and fully process that worst case scenario. Well, I'm encouraging you to process that worst case scenario. What is the worst case scenario that you have in your mind about this relationship? For me, it was he's going to choose someone else. He's not going to want to be with me. But what I would do is I would try to fight it and but no, I have faith and no, it's going to come together. But allow yourself to go there. What happens if he chooses someone else? What would you do? Yes, you might be sad, you might be hurt, you might be confused. But then what? What's on the other side of that? You would more than likely find ways to heal. You would lean on your friends, you would cry it out, you would examine the relationship and think, what can I do different? What would I prefer to have next time? How can I grow from this? And then you would put yourself out there again and you'd meet someone new. So allow yourself to go through the worst case scenario so that you can also think about how you'll recover if the worst case scenario happens. And that is a direct way to fight against anxiety and not let it control you. And then the last thing is to increase your self acceptance. You are a beautiful person. You are divine. You radiate light and you are magnetic. Reflect on that. I would find that I had to start sometimes asking other people that I knew loved me and that I trust, what do you like about me? What makes you want to be my friend? What are these positive qualities about myself that you can call out? Because I needed to hear that. I needed to be reminded of how great I am because your girl is great. And that is what I'm encouraging you to do. Find someone you trust that you know loves you, that will speak well of you, and ask them to give you some positive affirmations about yourself. And then receive what they say and start to speak it over yourself. The more you feel assured in who you are, then the more you will expect other people to make you feel assured. And so your next relationship, you're not going to settle for anything less than knowing how he feels about you with certainty because you know how you feel about yourself. So, build your self awareness. This is how you overcome that anxious attachment style. Build your self acceptance. This is really, really important. And you can do this and allow yourself to think of that worst case scenario. Go there and think about how you're going to recover. Worst case scenario, build your self acceptance, build your awareness. If you do these three things, you will start to notice a drastic change in your attachment style and how you show up in your love life. And you're so worth it. So, let me see if I have any other questions before I end. Okay, I think I answered all of the questions. So I'm so excited for you and your journey. You are worth your self exploration. You are worth healing. And guess what? You can have a secure attachment style. You can be in a relationship where your feminine energy just flows and flourishes, and he's in his masculine energy. And you all are able to balance out each other and really feel fulfilled in it. So I'm so excited. I have an ebook called Love Unblocked. It is free and it is in the description. So you are able to download it and read it and figure out what sort of blocks you have in your love life and how to overcome them. So let's just keep this work going. This is just the beginning. You can explore my videos and learn more about how to show up fully for yourself, how to be in your feminine energy, and you can also do some shadow work and download the ebook and really just reflect so that you can grow and call in the life that you know you are deserving, that you know you want. So I hope you have an amazing day. Enjoy the rest of your week. It is always a pleasure coming and talking to you, beautiful ladies, sharing my journey and how I've overcome. And I look forward to hearing how you will overcome. So take care, be great, know that you are great, and embrace the love that you're worth. Bye, beautiful.